Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. And hope you're all well. And we're going to find out what Andrew Cook is offering in this course on a health-orientated understanding of the body-mind. Sorry, I'm a bit nervous. That was a bit clunky, everyone. Oh, so I hope you're all good and welcome to Andrew. Hi, Andrew.
Hello there, Natalie.
Brilliant. So if you wouldn't mind today, I'd just like you to explain a little bit about what you're offering.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great.
Thank
Am,
you.
am I um, am I on the screen or
You
Yep.
are.
Yep.
not sure how this is working? Okay, all right then. So, hello everyone. Yeah, can I pin my own picture so I can actually see? Or okay, oh well, it's all right. It'll be okay.
I've pinned
So,
you.
it's working out how these work as well. This is a good practice.
Yeah,
So yes, hello
Natalie.
everyone. Yeah, so I'm Andrew Cook. I'm been a craniosacral therapist now about 30 years this month, um, and yeah, just as an explanation, really, where this material's come from. About 10 years into my practice, I realized a lot of people who were coming with physical problems were actually coming with embodiment issues, and um, embodiment issues are basically dissociation. So I went off and um, learned a little bit about polyvagal theory and a whole lot of other stuff. So I've been teaching. Um, well, I started off teaching polyvagal type material to my patients because it was useful, just helping them to understand what was going on with them, which is, a lot found that really useful. But over the years, so I've been teaching that, yeah, well, probably 15 years or so, maybe a bit more. I gradually gravitated the way that I described it and the way that I thought about it gradually changed. So um, when it boils down to it, the nuts and bolts of polyvagal theory are everyone knows the name, but the theory itself is quite academic, and it's really the pieces that have been added onto it at the side that are particularly useful. And what is most useful actually is the idea of neuroception. So how do we detect danger? Now, craniosacral therapy, and also the various spiritual practices I've had over the last 30 years or so, have really been about looking at health rather than looking at what's going wrong. If you practice CST, then the whole basis for that practice is actually looking for the health in the body. Yes, people come in and describe what is going wrong, but when you actually put it into practice, you're going, well, where is the health? Where is the energy that's going to deal with that? And that's coming from the healthy parts of the body. So if you focus on those, then something comes from that health and moves towards whatever needs help. So this is a particular way of thinking about it. And I found myself more and more describing the whole process um, in terms of neuroception. But if you reframe neuroception is about going, well, how do I find danger? So then if you reframe that in terms of health, you go, well, actually, neuroception is just about deciding what the status of the environment is that I'm in, which includes the possibility of danger. So, um, so yeah, so it's interesting. My original job was as a mining engineer, and then I went into hydrogeology, and I did a research into into nuclear waste disposal. So I guess in the current environment, my original training isn't particularly PC. Um, but but I saw some quite interesting things in that. So um, there was so the quality assurance systems that's used in all over the world in industry was coming out at the time when I was in those industries, and so QA was designed originally to um, it was designed originally to control industrial processes that supplied the armaments industry and the nuclear industry. So you had to make sure that these things were totally correct by getting rid of the human factor. It was all about removing the human factor. So then people took those systems and then started to turn them towards, well, how do you manage a company, or how do you control an education system by recording what's going on? And the thing is that that original idea is built into the QA system. How do we get rid of people so that there are no mistakes? And the original the original idea, which is behind how you formulate a system, then even if you forget that it's there, it's still in it. So if you start to look at any system that describes the human being and start from pathology, start from are we looking at illness, then that's always what you're going to end up looking at. So I thought, well, okay, well, let's step away from that and see if we can put something together which is actually looking at it from a health point of view. And in order to do that, it was necessary to really step back a lot and have something more of a really a systems view of the whole thing, and um, and go a little bit wider. So there's a branch of science which isn't that well known called semiotics, which has been going not really very long, maybe um, yeah, less than 100 years. And then recently that's been sort of changed into, so semiotics is the science of communication and information flow. And then that's been changed in recent years. So the people who practice it actually and study it have been looking more at what they call biosemiotics and ecosemiotics. So how do living systems communicate with each other, and also inside each other? How does one cell communicate with another? So I found the ideas in that particularly useful, and um, and in the end, the whole package, of course, has got to be useful to whoever's coming into the clinic. So all of this technical scientific stuff is a useful background if you're putting something together. But in the end, it has to be very pragmatic and simple and understandable. So it's been quite a process putting that whole thing together. So essentially, what I'm going to be doing is presenting that yeah, whatever that I put together over the last 15 years. Um, now, I started off teaching this in physical classes just before all the lockdown and the COVID thing started. Um, and um, um, and then someone who was in XR, if you're in the UK, I guess you've heard of XR. They're like a environmental protest group. So there were a lot of people in there suffering from burnout, and someone in there contacted me, and we put together. I think we ran about 8 online courses over the lockdown period, and all the people there found it really useful. Um, the format of that was half a dozen 2-hour sessions. So the format on the eHealth learning program is a little bit tighter than that. So we'll just have to fit in what we can. But what I'm going to do is emphasize the practicalities. You know, how do you actually put this into practice? And that's going to be my main focus in the first three modules. We've not got dates for the second set, and the second set will put a little bit more theory in. Um, I've also been writing about all of this, and what I've found is that if you look at the body from a health point of view, um, yeah, Francisco Varela was a interesting guy. He was one of a group of people who researched what's called cybernetics back in the 1970s or so, which was basically an attempt to understand life processes so that we could make artificial life. Now, in the end, they didn't manage to do it, but the people who were in that research program were very, very clever, and Varela was one of them. And he basically called the reductionist approach to understanding life. He called it the cut here approach, because you have this extraordinarily interconnected, complex system, which is a living thing. And in order to understand it, we chop as many things off as possible in order to have a simple system. So, you know, a lot of people talk about the vagus nerve. Polyvagal theory has been reduced to just interest in the vagus nerve, and your body is more than a vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve doesn't work in a vacuum. It is complementary to the sympathetic nervous system. So the whole lot kind of work together. So Varela called this the cut here approach to understanding life, which is basically you keep chopping all the interactions until you've got something that's so simple that you can understand it. But of course, what's left is not the same as what you started with. And um, and one of the reasons this is done, one of the reasons we have this in our culture, is because every single person here in this in this little um, kind of program here this evening, everyone you know, um, even people who grew up in farms, um, grew up in a human constructed environment. So you grow up understanding how things are put together, how human made things are put together, because they're the things you're surrounded by. A lot of kids these days, they don't really get outside very much. They know what a carpet is, they know the furniture, there's toys of various kinds. And um, so so all of those are random objects that are put together, and they have no relational properties whatsoever, other than the fact that they've been grouped together in a room. And you get a machine, and again, or anything that's man-made, and again, there are little components that actually could be used for almost anything, really, and they're put together and assembled, and they can be deassembled, and reassembled. But actually, the components are they're constructed together rather than having grown out of each other and with each other and from each other. So this creates a certain way of thinking, which we then have, which then changes how we see the living world. So we see the living world in the same way. And this is one of the things which is actually being said by a lot of Native American academics actually now, and people who are attempting to reframe human thought, because obviously we've managed to damage the world we're on because we think this way. So it's a really tricky thing. So our whole language has gone down this route as well. You grow up in a human constructed world, so you start to communicate and think in that way. So your language then has that structure. So it's very difficult to get out of. So I've attempted to sidestep it slightly. And what that means is that that things are no longer linear. It's not possible to separate it all out into nice little neat chapters and go from one thing to another and then stick them together at the end. So um, so the teaching then becomes a little bit iterative. So we do a little bit, we dip in a little bit, have some practical experience, and then we dip in a little bit more. The same material, but going a little bit deeper and seeing more interactions, and then again some practical experience. So that's what we'll be doing. I'll just
You
I'll
got
just share the screen.
some slides to show us.
Yes, I'll just
Right.
find that.
Does
And
anyone have any questions about what Andrew has said at all, just while he's doing that? If you have, just put them in the chat.
all right, there we go. Okay. Yes. So there we go. So it's two modules of 3 1-hour online sessions. Um, and so a health and oriented understanding of the body mind is what the titles ended up as. I never know what to call this. Um, but I've oriented this more towards professionals. But if you're not a professional therapist, it kind of doesn't matter really. That's not a problem. So, what is the body mind? Okay, now basically, um, basically every single cell. It's so difficult to get away from this fragmented way of describing things in our language. It's almost impossible, but let's proceed anyway. So every single cell in the body has some sentience, is aware, and there's several directions this comes from. There was some amazing research done by a guy called Albrecht Buhler, who's put all of his research online, so that you can see the videos of cells going around and having a memory and um, making decisions, changing their minds. And the behavior that's observed makes it very difficult, very, very difficult for them not to have things like memory and some sense of self-identity. If you also look at it from the biosemiotics point of view, so this is the science of how information is communicated. There's a whole issue. You see something with your eyes, and then that has a meaning. Now, this meaning making is incredibly complex. It requires that we have it requires that we actually convert just raw information into something that has a context and is usable. And it is not straightforward. Now, again, it's almost impossible to have any kind of meaning making unless there is some kind of sentience and intelligence, consciousness. So the tiniest little organism that moves around, if it can navigate around in an environment, then more or less has to be conscious. So your whole body is an agglomeration of these little conscious entities that have grown of themselves. They've gradually divided, made themselves more complex, and in that process, there is this group of consciousness, and then you've got organs and whatever, and each one of those, the consciousness of each one of those is rather more than the sum of its parts, and then and so on. So the body mind is this collection of consciousness which is associated with body tissue, which is linked into the cognitive conscious mind that we have, okay, on our particular level. But also it's a little bit kind of below that level, we add a little bit of extra value. The cognitive mind adds a bit of extra value to that. Um, but it certainly doesn't control everything. And some of that consciousness leaks up and is there as emotion, as yes, as meaning and all the sensory system and so on. And then some of the more kind of cognitive layers of thought ought to sort of leak back down, so your body knows what your mind wants it to do. Okay, so there's this sort of two-way communication. So the body mind is everything more or less below your sort of like the top level cognitive functions, and it's what keeps you alive. It's what maintains all the homeostasis and so on. It's You could think of it as similar to Jung's non-conscious, but the way that's normally considered is not real. It's more from a psychological point of view. And when I'm talking about it, it's actually really to do with all the biology and everything that's living that allows us to kind of be here physically and move around.
Andrew, could I just interject there a moment? I'm slightly time conscious here.
Yes, so we've got
So
how
I'm just wondering whether we could have a little bit more of a brief, yeah, going over what there is, just in case we've got any questions at the end, and then maybe we could, go into depth a little bit.
brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, I can't see a clock because of
Okay.
the size of the screen share. Okay,
Yeah,
so
certainly. Thank you.
yes, so as I say, there'll be practical. Yeah, I'm just kind of a stream of consciousness here with all of this. Um, um, so what is a healthy nervous system? We're going to start with practical exercises, and as much as I can, I will basically introduce each topic with a little exercise, so you kind of get something that you can experience. But the whole focus of it is actually, although the schema has been put together looking at health, the focus is very much, well, how do we get out of non-health? And there's a lot of dissociation and overwhelm and trauma in our culture, huge amount, which actually probably affects everyone. And it's from this life, it's generational, and so on. So any kind of resilience, the kind of the most straightforward way of getting more resilience is actually to chip back at some of that accumulated overwhelm, and so the body and the conscious mind are more working in the present moment, more able to be here and now, rather than trying to deal with things which are no longer happening. And there's lots of applications for this. So that third one, re-engaging with the living world, as we become more aware of the body, then the body is a part. Again, we're back to language problems, but the human body, is a part of the whole ecosystem. We are living things which are part of the whole planet, and um, and when it comes to this biosemiosis, this kind of communication, the fact that you can kind of look at yourself and go, okay, here is a nice skin, and everything out is out there. There's an out there and there's an in here, but actually there's also a continuity of information flow. And so the more we get in touch with our body, the more we're in touch with the means by which we're aware of everything else, actually, everything else. So the body is like a great big aerial. Some people have that aerial switched off a little bit more, because that's kind of, it's easier being a little bit numb in this world we're in. Some people have got that aerial stuck outwards too much, so there's too much information coming in all the time. So we want to be able to kind of regulate that, so there's more kind of play in the system, and it can be more sensitive or less sensitive as needed, rather than jammed in one position.
Can I ask,
Okay.
with regards to the exercises, what would our participants kind of expect? Are they do you work singularly or will you be working in pairs? How will that format take place?
Okay. I'm trying to get my screen back. Oh, there we are. Stop share. There we are. So, um, no, there's not enough time to do group work. I mean,
Right.
it's far too tight to do group work. But what I will do is basically run through simple awareness. They're essentially awareness exercises, and then we'll have a little bit of time for feedback.
That's
You know,
great.
I mean, the human being um, has been explored in so many different ways. So a lot of the material you will hear and think, oh yeah, that's familiar. Okay, so there's bound to be a familiarity. Some of the stuff I'm presenting has some mindfulness or focusing in it. If you're familiar with those two things, yeah, Gendlin's focusing is very good, but um, but there needs to be some discrimination when those techniques are applied because of the way that the more primitive parts of the nervous system work. If you simply allow your attention to go wherever on the biggest noise, usually the most obvious thing, that's not helpful.
Sure.
So I'll present a simple schema so that you kind of you can make useful choices as to where you put your attention.
That's
And
great.
attention is actually the center of everything,
Thank
um,
you.
which, yeah, of course, all the social media companies know because they want to grab it. It's worth a lot of money.
That's
But it's the most important thing to each one of us as a living organism as well. Um, yeah.
Anyone have any questions at all about the course? I want to know how long it is. So I know we've got a start time.
Whoops. Oh, what have I done? Oh no, I've I've
That's
pressed the wrong
great.
button. Okay,
That's
stop.
fine.
Okay, there we
Oh,
go. All right. So,
okay. So
all right.
yeah, we've got a start time of 7 p.m. But I just wanted to know how long the course is. Is it an hour or?
Yes, it's just an hour. Yes,
Ah, okay.
we've only got three lots of 1 hours, and then there'll be a break. And we've at the moment we don't have dates for the second lot. Um, yes, so
Okay.
it's going to be quite condensed. And yeah.
I've got a question here from Lou. She says, where can you find the cost of the course? If you just head to the eHealth Learning website, it's all on there, okay? All the information is on there. Thank you. Because I think it's going to be important, isn't it, for us to try, all of us to try and build resilience in whatever way that means for us, doesn't it, as individuals, in order to be able to kind of cope with, yeah,
Yes.
just being in the world. So this kind
Yes.
of course can be, yeah, really helpful at building skills and creating tools to help us do that.
Yes, that's the idea. You know, really. I mean, that's why I want to take it from just a simple like one-to-one clinical practice and just make it more widely available, you know. And it's one tool that you can use. It's not the answer to life, the universe, and everything. It's not sliced bread. Um, but it's useful. And yeah.
Okay,
And the way that it works is really useful information. Once you understand that, then actually there are lots of other ways of applying it. Yeah.
yeah, fantastic,
Mhm.
fantastic. So we've got a few questions coming. I think Stephen's been answered by John there. Yes, they are recorded, so there's something you could always go back to if you want. You could become a member of eHealth Learning and then you get these courses a little bit cheaper. That's worth looking at too. Um, can we promote it for you? I'm sure. Talk to John. That would be that would be great. Yeah, that would be lovely.
Yeah.
So we really hope that that you'll join us on for the first part on Thursday, the 31st of October at 7 UK time. It would be lovely to get as many people together as we can to yeah, help build resilience in our lives and in our community.
Thank you, Andrew. I know you've got a huge amount of clinical experience to share as well, so I'm sure you'll be drawing on that. It's
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah, it sort of yeah, it kind of comes in now and again.
So I can tell. Great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Good. Well, thank you,
Good.
everyone. It's now 6:30, so we come to the end of that session. Thank you all for joining us and participating, and we hope to see you on the course.
In a couple of weeks' time. Yeah.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
your